What up, family? CTR Media Network. Yeah. Best in the biz. Yeah. Join the team. CTR is who we are, the media network, that's the best by far. Whether you listen at your home, at your job, in your car, come get the information that's needed above par. Never lasting, motivational podcasting, giving you the answers to the questions that you asking. Serious talks and topics, how to come up and profit, how to better yourself, your health is here, we got it. Reaching 350 million, they tuning in. We in 50 different countries, we all can. And like-minded, find your purpose and your assignment. Come get your fix, your feel, your mental alignment. Get active and speak to the masses. Build your influence all levels and all classes. Now you know you can monetize and grow. CTR Media Network, start the show. What up, family?
The Vera Tommy Show. The Vera Tommy Show. The Vera Tommy Show. The Vera Tommy Show. Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Tommy Show. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Hello. We're here and back for part 2 of Raising Children is Not Easy, but it is worth it. I am so excited that we have more of the authors here tonight. And we're going to start with our visionary evangelist Sandra Jackson. How are you doing today?
I am well. How are you?
I am great. And we're going to start like we did yesterday. For those that didn't catch it on Tuesday, please share with us your vision. What was it that made you, that led you to do this show, to do this book?
Thank you so much for inviting us to your show tonight. We are so grateful for you allotting this time. The book is an anthology with 15 authors who crafted their unique stories, and they are sharing tips, tools, strategies of how they raise their children to make our world a better place to live in. The way I got started is because I was asleep at night and the Lord shook me and woke me up. He asked me a question. He said, if you all don't do anything in the next 5 years, what do you expect the world to be like? And he showed me men and women standing on the street corner with guns. He showed me drug paraphernalia. And then he showed me a woman sitting in her chair nursing her baby. And he said to me, if you can get this anthology in the hands of women that is still nursing their babies, then our world can shift and change. And so I crafted and went about asking people to join this God anthology. And it wasn't an easy task, but I'm so grateful to God that 15 women and one man, 14 women and one man agreed to it. And they felt the call to this anthology and they answered the call. And so for that, I'm grateful.
That is so awesome. And we're grateful. And I am honored to be a part of this book myself. We're going to pull up Dr. Josephine Harris. Hello, Dr. Harris. How are you today? I can't hear you.
I am blessed and fabulous.
Yes. I know you just came back from Dubai and Egypt, so I know you're feeling great. We're so glad that you are here. And what I'm going to ask you is to take a few minutes and share with our audience what made you become a part of this particular anthology. I know you and I are in another anthology together that has to do with parents as well. So, what made you decide to do this particular anthology?
Wow. With Evangelist Sandra, she asked me about the anthology, and I was like, wow, it was very interesting because with me, raising children is very dear to me. I'm also in a blended family. So I like, wow, I should tell my story of how it is and wonderful when God bless you with these bonus children, and you raising this in a different environment for both you and your husband, bringing together of both a blended family, because in the Bible God has is many blended families in the Bible. So I was like, let me tell my story on this, and this was what brought this to me, and doing this anthology with Evangelist is very dear to my heart. So that really opened up how I can tell my story as a blended family.
That is magnificent. And we can't wait to hear your story and read your story. That is so awesome. I'm going to pull up Miss Paula Johnson. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Hello, everybody.
I am so
Hello.
excited for you to be here. I'd like for you to share with our audience what made you be involved in this particular anthology.
Well, actually, this is my very first anthology, so I am excited and I'm thankful for Miss Sandra for pushing me to share my story. However, it was just amazing that I had this opportunity to share my story. Many people don't express about the difficulties that they experience in their lives with their children. So I went through some things with my son, so I decided that I wanted to share a meaningful subject to the world, as well as how you can transform, and just giving parents hope for redemption.
That is awesome. And we're going to be talking about some of the trials and the difficulties that and were you a single mother?
Yes, I have been for the past 23 years.
Okay, I understand. I have been too. So our
Yeah,
stories are a little bit different from
absolutely.
those who are in a two-family home, but very significant either way. I'm going to pull up Dr. Dawson. Hello, Dr. Dawson. How are you? I can't hear you. Unmute yourself, please.
Great. I'm excited. I'm so excited.
Well,
Well,
we're
we're
excited
excited
to
to
have
have
you
you
here.
here.
And I'm
And
going
I'm going to
to ask
ask
you to
you to
please
please
share.
share.
We're
We're
getting
getting
feedback. Can
feedback. Can
everyone
everyone
please
please
mute your
mute your
mic,
mic,
except for
except for
Dr.
Dr.
Dawson?
Dawson?
I'm going
I'm
to
going to
ask you
ask
to
you to
come
come
up
up
and
and
share with
share
our
with our
audience
audience
what
what
made
made
you
you
become a
become a
part
part
of
of
this
this
anthology.
anthology.
Well, Evangelist Sandra Jackson, she convinced me that, hey, people need to hear what you have to say. Um, the knowledge that I have, others need to pretty much, they need to partake of that. And so that's why I got in this, because she was right. There's so much of the unknown, especially in our society now, that's going on, as far as medically speaking, scientifically speaking, is a different world. Is a different world, and the mothers of this new age really need to be aware. The parents, they need to be aware of the do's, the don'ts, the bewares, and things of that nature. And so here we are.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Our
Our
young
young
parents are
parents are
facing
facing
so
so
much
much
today.
today.
And if we can help them understand and recognize, first of all, learning from the older generation and taking on some of that wisdom that we bring to the table, but also the professionals like Dr. Dawson, like Dr. Harris, that bring not only their experience, but their education and their knowledge to the forefront to help parents become better parents. And we're not saying that parents are bad. We're saying that there are things that we need to learn. And when we know better, we do better. Well, let me pull up Mrs. Vanessa Bowser. Hello, how are you today? Unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hello,
How are
everybody.
you?
I'm well. How are you?
We are great, and I'm going to ask you the same question I asked everyone else. What is it that motivated you to be a part of this anthology?
I say that the motivation was a divine intervention. And I say that because I received information on my Facebook page of Evangelist Sandra Jackson in reference to this particular project. And I had never seen or heard of her before. And it was a direct question, a direct message. Would you like to be a part? And I thought, I'm going to call her to find out if this is something that is for sure, or if this is a host. You know, a lot of things you see are not accurate. And so I did. And I was vacationing at the time in December for Christmas. Right around December 28th, did I see it. And we talked late that night. And I decided, okay, I perhaps will take advantage of this opportunity. And I had to pray and ask God, is this something you would have me to do? I said, because based on what I see, I don't know if I personally can finance it. So I said to God, if this is something you want me to do, then God, I ask you to finance it. And he did just that. So today, here I am.
Well,
And I'm
God
very
bless-
grateful.
Well, God bless you, and we're very grateful to have you here. And our other guest, Dr. Barbara. Dr. Barbara is here. How are you, Dr. Barbara? Unmute yourself.
I'm Dr. I'm one of all about raising children. Happy to meet you and be.
Your sound is crackling. We're having a hard time hearing you. And all of us are on mute. So my question to you, let's try this one more time. My question to you is, what motivated you to be involved in this particular anthology?
Sandra. Sandra motivated me. She said she wanted me in her book, and here I am.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Well, ladies, we got a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. Now, let me ask you. We know that we've got single parents, we got two family homes represented, and so my question right now is, what would you say was one of your biggest challenges raising your children? And I know I'm going to start with Dr. Sandra, because I also know that you've got another show to do. So I don't want you to not be able to participate here. So if you could share with us, just give us a couple challenges, and then your advice as to some things, some positive things that you did in dealing with and facing those challenges.
Thank you so much. My biggest challenge was raising my children in a single family home. I had to work. I was a stay-at-home mom at one time when I was married, but then I had to work and get 3 jobs. During that time, I got off work at 11:30 at night and had to drive 45 minutes home from work. And I have 5 girls, 4 sons. And as you know, children will get in trouble. And so it was just trying to maintain and make sure each of the children was where they were supposed to be at every moment, because when you have to go to work and to make sure food is on the table, clothing and all of the necessities, and I lived in over a $500,000 home, and so all of those bills had to get paid out of one income. It was difficult. So I had to make a decision to go and to get 3 jobs. It was tough. It was really tough, but God made a way. And that was my biggest challenge, trying to make sure everybody was where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be.
And you worked 3 jobs?
Yeah, I had to do it. A woman will do what she has to do, you know?
Absolutely. So, what impact did that have on your children with you working 3 jobs to try to
Mhm.
support them?
Yeah, I was working 3 jobs and I was going to college. And so my daughter, my sixth child, she pulled me aside one day and she said, Mom, we need you. We need you. And I love going to school. I'm in school right now. I think I will be in school until the day I die. Um, she said those words to me and it pricked my heart. And I had to make a informed decision. What am I going to do? And so in my mind, I was thinking, if I can get my degree, then I won't have to work so hard. But in their minds was, we already don't have a dad. Now we don't have a mom. It's too much time with just siblings in a home. Anything is subject to happen. And so I had to make that decision. I withdrew from school and I prayed and asked God, I said, God, I need one good job. And so that's what he did. He allowed me to get hired at Apple, which was iTunes. So I worked for iTunes. And yeah, so that's what happened.
That's awesome. And so, one thing I do want to say to our listening audience, it's not so much always the quantity of time that we spend with our children, but the quality
Yeah.
of that time. The quality of that time. And so, one of the things that Evangelist Sandra recognized is that quality, spending that quality time with her children. So important, so important. Okay, I'm going to ask each of you the very same question. And so, Dr. Harris, I know you also, as a therapist, you're also working with kids. So you can come from either your perspective as a mother or as some of the challenges that some of your clients are facing as well. Unmute yourself.
One of the things I really want to talk about is coming from a parent perspective. And when I say a parent perspective, I'm a blended family. So me and my husband have children from previous relationship, and we have 7 children altogether. But they are adults now. But when we was raising them and when they were small, the very challenging thing is dealing with the previous relationship, outside parents, dealing with the biological mom, dealing with the biological dad. So one of the very challenging things is doing raising children in a blended family. You have to really set the foundation for your children as well as the outside parents as well, because sometimes the biological parents interfere with the home itself, and you have all these different personalities, and some of the children will play one parent against the other parent. So one of the things you really have to focus on is laying the foundation when you is in a blended family, raising children, even from small children to adult children. You still have to lay the foundation, and as well as we also a military family, so we have a lot of challenges what's coming in and out of our household. So one of the things is setting the foundation in making sure the children understand that both parents are involved, but you are not there to replace that parent. You are there to enhance that relationship within each other. So you have to make sure that the foundation is set within your family if it's a blended family.
Absolutely. And that is so important because oftentimes, like you said, parents of blended families, you end up with all those dynamics that's going on, and the children are in the middle of all of that, and they're having to deal with and face those things, and understand that just because they're in a blended family now does not mean that they disrespect any of their anybody. So that's just very important. All right. So, Miss Paula, can you share with us? And as a single mom, and is your child a male or female?
He's a male.
Okay, well, I'm with you. So if you could share, because I raised my son as a single mom as well. So if you could share some of the challenges that you faced as a single mom of a male child, and what were some of the things that you did to combat that?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I raised several children in the home, so he wasn't the only child that was in the home. I did have my niece and my nephews, so it was
Okay.
like sort of a blended family as well. However, but it was a family, and it was difficult because he by him being the only child, going from one person, just me and him, to three, four, other children in the home, that, kind of became a little difficult. However, he was able to adapt. He adjusted because they were his cousins. It's not like they were just strangers. They were his cousins. So, and, to this day, they have the best relationship, to be honest. But as far as my son goes, he was always this busy, like he was a busybody. So he just busy, but just too smart for his own good. You just have those children that are just too smart for their own good, and really don't know how to condition it and hone that down. So I tried things that would enhance, you know his educational level out. His punishment would be reading the dictionary. He had to read the dictionary as a punishment. It wasn't like I was taking things from him or anything of that nature. He would have to sit at the table and read the dictionary. So, and recite words from the dictionary to me, and, he got to the point where he would try to challenge me with words from the dictionary, so.
Great way to build the vocabulary. I'm telling you,
Right.
a great way to build a vocabulary, which
Yes,
is awesome, which is awesome. And
absolutely.
the one thing that you said that I really appreciate and value is how you were able to hone in on his energies and
Hmm.
find things for him to do based on his energies, and getting him
Yes.
involved in things that were going to enhance him and what it is that he gravitated towards. I found that was very important as a single mom of a son as well, and exposing him. Even though I was a single mom, it did not
Hmm.
mean that he was without male figures
Hmm. Hmm.
that he could model after. And some of those male figures even included big brothers,
Hmm.
and then his uncles and and things of that nature. Okay, who's okay? I want to make sure that I'm not missing anybody. Dr. Barbara, if you, oh, okay, Dr. Barbara, if you could share with us some of the challenges that you have faced as a mom, and what were some of the things that you did to combat that?
So much. And thank you for having me on your show. I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Did
We can't hear you. You're breaking up.
I know what's the matter there. Let me hold this there. Maybe I was covering up my speaker.
Oh, okay.
Do you hear me now?
Much better.
All right, darling. So that was the problem. So my challenge was I was an absentee parent. My son was raised with two parents. My husband and I are still married 47 years. And
Congratulations.
amazing, amazing. And my son uh, lived with us in our home. but I was absentee. Why, you ask? I had the most prestigious, the most acclaimed job in science education. In science education, I had reached the pinnacle of my career, and I was older. And Sam was not born till I was 34 years old, and I had reached the pinnacle of my career. My career involved travel. I was gone all the time. So his routines were set before I ever got on the plane. And when I traveled, his routine was in place. He knew where he had to be, what he had to do. Lots of extracurricular to fill the gap. My husband was a fabulous dad, and got Sam where he needed to be. But my responsibility was to organize all of these events to give Sam this huge smorgasbord of opportunities to challenge him to hone his talents, even though I was on the road.
Well, I must ask you this question. Did your son ever express to you how he felt about the fact that you weren't around much? Has he ever talked to you about that?
Well, darling, thank you for asking, Vera. Oh my God, I start my chapter with this tiny little story. So Sam always felt he was competing, yes, against my career. My career was science, and I'm still a huge personality in science. So, so he came home from college one day, and I said, Sam, I'm glad you're home because you can help me move the horses. And Sam said, smooth as silk, he said, Mom, get my brother Science to help you.
Ooh. Ooh. And you know, I have to say, that's a great story. And it's also a great lesson for parents to understand. Kids don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care. They want to know that you're going to be there for them. And a lot of times, there are so many parents that feel as long as I'm providing, as long as I'm giving, as long as I'm doing what I need to do to provide for my child, that's most important. And it may be, and it may not be. And when and for your son to express that to you, I'm sure it made you feel some kind of way. But it also says how he felt with you not being there.
Right.
That was, and again, it's the quality of time. And we're here to help educate and encourage parents, and so that time that you spend with your children, it is important.
Right.
It is important. When you consider the second cause of death for 10-year-olds to 34-year-olds is suicide, we need to really look at that. That's a serious issue because it's oftentimes because parents aren't there for their kids and they're relying on everything and everybody else to take care of them when all they want is mommy. All they want is daddy, and these are things that we need to talk about because when we know better, we do better. And when awareness precedes change. And I'm sure, Dr. Barb, that you've reflected back and I realize your career was number one, most important thing, but I'm sure you recognize the importance of your son needing you at times when you were not able to be there because of work. So, Miss Vanessa, I've asked everyone this question, so let me ask you, what challenges did you face and how did you overcome it? And can you kind of bring your head down a little bit? We can't. Okay, much better. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I had the challenges of being a single mom during a period of raising my son, and a lot of times because we went through separations and trying to manage in marriage. However, I'm very grateful that I had my relationship with God. And secondly, I had a great church family. So the involvement of doing extra things, keeping him active in extracurriculars, and traveling extensively with the church. We did lots of traveling, lots of conferences and things of that nature. It helped to bridge the gap of my working and maybe not being able to attend a game or something of that nature. If a game was at 3 p.m. and I was still working, I could not make the game. So the church family, in addition to extracurriculars, were always helpful in raising my son. And as I mentioned in the book, he was a menace, so he was busy, always into things. And I knew he was very active, wanted to be a participant. So I tried to keep him active in school activities. Knowing the teachers and the athletic directors and things of that nature were very, very important to me, because they helped me in the rearing of him. So all those extra people, coaches and mentors and things of that nature, those were people that really helped me.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And we need to take a break for a commercial, and I will be right back. And and Evangelist Sandra, before you leave, we lost a couple people, and we'll be back. Let me do a commercial.
Reality today with Ms. Mac Marketing. 848-236-5026.
Ms. Mac Marketing. If you want more exposure, if you want to be publicly seen on magazines and things of that nature, you want to check out Ms. Mac Marketing at 848-236-5026. All right. All right. I have a couple more, but there's some things we need to talk about. And we need to recognize, and a lot of times when we look at parenting styles, and I know Dr. Josephine, you and I have gone over these in other venues before, but the importance of parenting styles and the impact that they have on our children. And I'm sorry that Dr. Barbara left. I hope that I did not say anything that offended her. But it's just, I hope not. But anyway, let's talk about some of the things. What would you like to share that you would like to provide some nuggets for parents out here? Just a little bit that's in the book. We don't want to give out everything, but if we can just kind of talk about one little nugget that's a part of your story that's going to entice our audience to get the book. Evangelist Sandra.
All right, on page 15, I mentioned my favorite poet, Dr. Maya Angelou. And she made a statement that says, when you know better, you do better. And that rings true. What happens is when we start out as parents, we don't know everything there is to know about our child or children for that matter. And so what we do is we um, we end up making mistakes. And
Yes.
so in this book, you're going to find out that parents need a get out of jail free card and children need a get out of jail free card. And it's all right to apologize. And so
Yes.
I try to bring the fundamentals of teaching into play. And so I talk about integrity. What is integrity? I talk about the fundamentals of being honest, um, being transparent, and being authentic. Because I think if we teach our children and get back to teaching our children the fundamentals and the basics of what it means to be a good person in society. My mom often said, I'm raising you all to be citizens of the United States and citizens for heaven. Now, if you take a good picture and a good glimpse at that, that means she's teaching us the fundamentals of being a good person inside and outside. And so my mom had 15 children. I had an excellent example of what a parent was. My mom raised all of us. It was a two-parent home. My dad was instrumental in our lives. We had a lot of fun. We traveled. We did a whole lot of stuff together. And I was praying and hoping that that would be my lot as well with my children. But what I want to point out is that everybody's family is different, but it does take the same unique principles for each child to become successful and productive in society. And I
Absolutely. And
want to
one of the,
point out one more thing. If your child gets upset with you because you've taught them right, don't worry about it. Don't lose any sleep over it. And I had to learn that lesson because I'm going to teach you the difference between right and wrong. So everything you do will be on you. All right. So that's powerful, right?
one of the other things that you mentioned, I think, is very important. Apologizing. We expect our children to apologize to us, but when we recognize that there were some things that we might have been able to do better, then we need to be able and be parent enough to apologize to our children as well. And sometimes it's right in the moment, right after you've done something. You might want to say, you know what, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that or I shouldn't have done that. Please forgive me. And there's nothing wrong with saying forgive me to your children. All right. Pa- Paula, you want to share with us a nugget that you have in the book that will be inspirational to our audience.
You said in the book, okay, I should have probably added this to the book about, just the absence of, his father in his life. You know, it only served, to highlight to me the importance of the family village. You know, even though, I'm certain I did the best that I could as a single parent, I believe that a stronger, more solid foundation, would have been beneficial to my son's growth and development. Also just having those, the presence of just positive male role models. And I know with Dr. Pastor was speaking about how she was able to, build rapport with the coaches and different things of that nature. I did, did that, several times. However, it was still like disappointing because when you're the only person doing everything, it's difficult for you to do everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
You know,
does.
it's
And
difficult
and
for you to be at the school, at work. You know what I'm saying? You got to drop them off to boxing and then bring them, what I'm saying? See if you can get somebody else to pick them up. And, that village is something that I honestly wish that, we had more of.
Okay, but you know, I'm sure you did the best you could. And being a single mom is hard, you know,
It is.
especially when you're working full time and trying to
Yes.
go to school and trying to take care of your child and trying to make sure that he's in the places where he needs to be, watching who his friends and family friends are and their families and what type of people they are and how they're impacting on your child. All of that stuff. I know it sounds exhausting because it can be. Okay. Dr. Josephine, you talked about the blended family, and that is such an important piece. Who am I missing? Okay, we've lost a couple people. Um, all right. Vanessa,
Yes.
nuggets that you can share.
Well, in the book, I talked about the responsibility of saving 10% if they worked. I have a motto that says we always pay God and then we pay ourselves. And growing up, when my son was working, certainly I required that he had a bank account, and I would make sure that he put a certain amount aside as he was paid. He first paid God. He had to put a certain amount into the bank account, and he could only spend a certain amount. So that was a discipline that he didn't particularly appreciate. And when I hear parents today that allow their children to spend every dime on a pair of shoes or whatever because they are working and it's their money, I think they're setting them up for failure, because they have to realize that something might happen and they may need what we call an ER fund. And I had a situation today with something I've got to go to the dentist for. And I thought, okay, I called the dentist to find out, the cost. And I said, okay. So, we all have situations that come up in our lives, and there are times when we may not have an ER fund. However, if we're taught to save a percentage, then there's always something to fall on when it's needed. And I tell my grandchildren, live in such a way that you, even though, depending on what you make, learn to put a portion of that aside and realize that it's not yours. And then when you really need something, it won't be so difficult for us to help you, even if you need it, because you've got a portion of it. So that's a discipline. It's not easy. I know what it is like living paycheck to paycheck. I've been there. I know what it's like budgeting on a monthly basis. Been there. So I believe that that's a discipline that they can learn to live with. And once they acquire the maturity in growing up, it's not so hard to do what they need to do. It's not so hard to pay insurance when you've already had to pay it growing up. My son had to pay his portion of the insurance when he learned to drive. And I said, okay, driving requires maintenance. It's not just about driving. So you pay your portion of the insurance and you can drive. So, it was a requirement. And today, no problems with that, because he knows it's just what you got to do. It's called growing up.
That is amazing. And the mere fact that first of all, financial literacy is not taught in the schools. And most parents don't teach it because they weren't taught it either, especially within our community. And so for you to recognize how important that is says so much, because let's face it, in our community, one of the reasons our financial situations are the way that they are is because we weren't taught. And it's not taught. Now, it is taught in some schools, but it's not and oftentimes taught in ours. And
That's
so
right.
I commend you
Mhm.
for teaching your son the value of the dollar at an early
It's
age.
very important.
Very important. Parents, you hear this? Teach your kids to save money. All right, we got the doctor. Evangelist Jackson. She's been chatting here. She's like, parents, do not be afraid to teach your children. No, don't be afraid. And responsibility is key. Let's talk about boundaries. Boundaries are absolutely necessary. There are four basic parenting styles, and one of them is that permissive parent that
Mhm.
wants to be their child's friend,
Oh,
and therefore
wow.
they don't set boundaries. And as
That's
a
right.
result, a child grows up not being disciplined. They end up not doing well with authority because they have not been raised on boundaries. And we talked about this on Tuesday. There's a difference between having boundaries that are concrete and no matter what, and also having guidelines that are flexible. And Dr. Josephine, I know you can shed some light on these parental styles because they're very important, and understanding the impact and the implications of each one of these parenting styles is something that we all need to be aware of. All right. Evangelist Sandra.
Yes, I just want to say good night. I enjoyed everybody. All right.
Well,
Thank you so
thank
much for
you.
having us.
Well, thank you for being here. God bless you. And
God
we will
bless.
continue the conversation with us four. Okay. Thank you, ladies, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Dr. Harris, I'm going to give you the floor and let's talk about some of these parental styles.
Oh wow. With the parental styles, being a friend, authoritative person, and being a permissive with, you have to really be careful with that parenting style because being a friend of your children, or whether it's a female or male, sometimes you don't have the authority to actually give them styles. So you have to really be focused on what's around them, and understanding that the difference between because sometimes with that parenting style with friends, they don't know the difference between being a parent and being a friend, and whether you be friends or being a parent is distinguished. That you got to be very careful with being friends with your children, because now they don't take you as an authority figure. They take you as a friend figure, and it's okay to be friends with them, but you have to realize parents first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you with the permissive style, they're not real consistent with their guidelines and their boundaries. And as a result of that, again, their children end up not having that self-discipline that they need and not dealing with
Yes.
authoritative figures. And then you got the authoritarian parent, and this is the parent that says, because I said so.
Because I said, I said so because I said so.
Right, because I said so. A child is not able to communicate because they're afraid they're going to get yelled at, belittled, or ridiculed, or criticized. And as a result of that, they start looking for love in all the wrong
All the wrong
places.
places. Yes.
They start seeking out people that they can talk to because they don't feel like they can talk to their parent because their parent is constantly yelling at them or criticizing them or belittling them or talking down to them. And my whole thing is, parents, think about it. How would you feel if that was how people were coming at you? And now, where boundaries are concerned, authoritarians tend to be very, very strict to the point where, there's not a whole lot of leadway for anything else. You know
There's
what I'm
not enough
saying?
time for children to grow.
Say that again.
Children don't have that time to grow as a person, as their personality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you got that authoritative parent. Now that's the parent that is supportive, listens to their child. The child, this is the parent that a child, no matter what they're going through, they're going to feel comfortable coming and talking to their parent. They can talk to their parent about anything because they know that that parent is not going to judge them, criticize them, belittle them, talk down to them, or any of that kind of stuff. They communicate with them. They ask them questions. They tune in, like what you said, Paula. They look at their strengths and what it is that they gravitate towards and tries to get them involved in that. That is so important. And then you got the neglectful parent, and neglectful parents don't intend to be that way, but as an example, Dr. Barbara talked about how she spent all that time on her job and what have you. And our kids don't understand. They don't understand, especially when they're young. They don't understand.
No.
So, and I, from a personal experience, knew someone that was so concerned with how the community saw her, what was going on with getting these accolades and all this kind of stuff, and her kids were fending for themselves and taking care of themselves. And they consequently ended up looking for love in all the wrong places, living lives that just, all because their parents weren't there. What do you expect? All right. I'm going to be quiet. So, feedback from anybody else. You guys feel free to say what's on your minds.
I talk with my chapter, and my chapter is about blended family is not so bad. One of the things I want to really lead with one of the things I really want to stress about is you really have to protect the peace in your home. Yeah. And when I mean protect the peace in your home, you have to look at what could you protect. Although you are a blended family and protecting the peace in your home, you have a choice to deal with multiple people outside of your home, and you have to be careful with dealing with multiple people outside of your home, because with a blended family, you're looking at dealing with the biological mom or the biological dad, then the stepmom, then the stepdad. So you have to really set the foundation around it and ground it in your home first before you let the outside parents come in. Although God give you bonus children, you have to also have communication and open relationship and different relationship with the outside parent, because in order for you to have a more peaceful in your home, you have to make sure that your home is in peaceful, not letting outside influence what's going on in your house.
Amen. And there's nothing like peace. There is nothing like peace. I mean, it surpasses all understanding. It really, really does. And oh my goodness, I could go on and on about peace, but
because you got to really be careful, because when kids see you upset, kids see you upset. Kids vibe off your atmosphere, your environment, your personality, your behavior.
Absolutely. And then a lot of times we wonder, why are kids acting like they are? I remember taking my son to counseling when he was 2 years old, because I just knew this boy had a problem. I get to the counselor, and the first thing she says to me is, well, tell me what's going on with you. I was under so much stress. I was going through so much stuff. I mean, my life was like, it was crazy. And then she said, it's not your son. It's you. He's picking up on what you're going through. He's acting out because of you and all your anxiety, all your stress. Your child is picking up on your stress. So that peace that you're talking about is so important. So important. Okay. Feel free to jump in here and say whatever you have to say. Frederick, he tuned in. He says, good evening, ladies. I was hoping you would come on, Frederick. All right.
May I ask, Miss Thomas, number 3, you gave the 4 parenting styles, but number 3, I tended to have miss that particular topic.
Oh, okay. Permissive parent, the authoritarian parent, the authoritative parent.
Oh, authoritative. Okay.
Yes, the authoritative parent, and that's the parent that, for example, Sandra, she had 9 children, and I would venture to say that she made it a point to make sure she spent time with each one of those children individually and separate and apart. That is, even if it's only 10 minutes,
Yes.
giving them that quality time. And again, kids don't care how much you know. They don't care nothing until they know how much you care. You know?
That's very true. I shared with my son recently that he has 5 children, and I said, I know your children probably better than you do. And I said, and you cannot treat them all the same. And I've heard parents say, I treat my children the same. And I say, you can't possibly. They have different personalities. So you can't give them the same things. You can't talk with them the same ways. Some you may be able to scold. Some may even get a spanking. Some you just have to punish. Some you have to correct in another way. You know, my grandchildren my girls are spitfires. I mean, they're all 3 of them. My boys are so laid back. And so it's interesting to see. And I tell my son that your girls are spitfires. They'll jump at the drop of a hat. They'll defend you. I said, but your boys are so laid back. You don't know what they're going to say one moment to the next. They're just taking it all in, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see. And for parents today, I would admonish by saying, you've got to treat your children fairly based on their personalities.
But one thing you don't ever want to do, you don't ever, especially when there are 2, 3, 4, 5 kids in the house, you don't want any one of those children to feel that you're showing favoritism.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Kids.
You don't want them to feel slighted.
You do not want them to feel slighted. That's why.
That's right.
And I would encourage your son. And I have 5 grandchildren as well. And one of the things that I shared and said to my son, you need to make time with each one of your kids separate and apart. Do something special with each one of them.
That's right.
At a given time. That is so important. Just imagine how that child feels. You know, my daddy just spent 15 minutes with me, 20 minutes with me. We went to the store together. You know, just little things.
Oh, yeah.
It's so important. And little girls need their dads in the worst kind of way. Boys
That's right.
Boys need their dads, but little girls, I'm telling you, I used to drive Uber and Lyft, and I can't tell you how many times I would pick up a young lady at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, going looking for a man. And I always, because of what I do, I always ask, what kind of relationship do you have with your father? And I cannot tell you, I would say 4 out of 5 of them said they had no relationship with their dad, or they had a poor relationship with their dad. Therefore, they're looking for love in all the wrong places. And you know what? We're running out of time. We've got less than a minute. I'm sorry. I want each of you to share at least one thing that you can leave with our audience before we leave. Just take 5, 10 minutes, 10 seconds to kind of share.
Communication is the key. And also getting to know your kids' friends, parents, and friends. You know, that's very important, because you don't know what type of, like you said, the type of home they live in. You don't know. You don't know what they're surrounded with. So just take that time to build a rapport with the families and the parents and the children.
Absolutely. And we talked about that on Tuesday. So important. Okay. Frederick is saying It is so important for boys and girls to have a relationship with their children. Okay. I think what he's saying is important for boys and girls to have a relationship with their dads, both of them.
Right.
I think that I'm assuming that's what you're saying.
That's what he's saying.
Okay. And you're absolutely correct. All right. Yes, that's what he was saying. It's so important for boys and girls to have that strong relationship with their fathers. Absolutely. We agree. All right. Now, Vanessa, I'm going to give you just a nugget, just a couple quick things that you can share. Just, because we're already out of time. So, all right.
I feel like I've said it all, but I know that I have not. I want to encourage everyone who's looking to please get the book. It's filled with so much, so many valuable insights and tips. We have all reared children differently. We've all had different experiences.
Yes.
And with those experiences, comes a realization of some things that people just don't have.
Yeah.
I have had the unfortunate experience of having my only one son incarcerated. And so I didn't raise him that way, but it was something that he chose to do. So he had to do the service, okay?
Right.
But with that, he's never been irresponsible, always very responsible. Nevertheless, he had a greed for money.
Yeah.
So that greed led him elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it was a brokenness for me. However, out of it came ministry.
There you go.
I at that point learned to minister to women who had sons and daughters who were incarcerated, and from that became chaplain in Kairos and just a number of things. And I can tell a lot of stories about what people deal with. So today he's very responsible.
That's good. Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to leave with Dr. Harris.
One of the things I want to leave with is really set clear boundaries with your children.
Mm-hmm.
Setting clear boundaries is very important.
Very important. So we've given you some nuggets here today. Thank you very much for listening, and we hope to see you back here next Tuesday. And God bless you all.
Yes.
And thank you again for being here. And thank you, my guests, for being here.
Thank you.
I really
thank you for having us.
Here. Thank you. And now I'm trying to trying to end my show, and my mouse. Remember, I was having problems with my mouse before, and so we're gonna say good night.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Hold on for a minute.
Sure.
The Vera and Thomas Show. 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 Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk